Hi, I'm Sally Glass and welcome to episode 180 of Art This Week. On this week's episode, we visit CentralTrak and gallery director Hyde Fontenot interviews the filmmakers A.L. Steiner and A.K. Burns about their film, Community Action Center. To see a trailer for the film, look below for a link. The duo recently toured America screening the film at art organizations. Now for Art This Week.
Hi, we're here with A.K. Burns and A.L. Steiner. They're presenting a film tonight at CentralTrak called Community Action Center. Just to start with, you're presenting this film in sort of an unusual way in that you're distributing it yourself. And you're driving around.
Very physically.
Yeah.
Speaking of touching, yeah, we touch the film pretty much every night.
Every night, yeah.
Yeah, it's distributed through Video Databank, but that's only one way we see the distribution as a working model. We know
it's also,
that,
it's also in archives right now, and that's one of the places it needs to land, continue to land. But it's at the MoMA in New York, and it's at Video Databank. So if you live in Chicago, you can actually go there and just view it through the archives there. And then it's also at UCLA.
The Legacy Project.
The Legacy Project, yeah. So if you're in one of those three major cities, it's accessible, but it's not accessible to sort of individuals to rent or purchase through Video Databank. It's only accessible to nonprofits and educational institutions.
Yeah.
So this was an alternate method of distribution that we've been talking about since we released the project of touring it, and we did tour it in several cities in Europe a couple years ago, 2010. Mm-hmm. So this was something we wanted to do in the US, and now we're going to 14 cities in 16 days. And so far it's been incredible. We're on the first third is done.
Yeah.
And Dallas, and we're taking it around, and we're getting really different types of crowds, interacting with different types of people, and hoping to spread the word and maybe see what happens after we're done.
Yeah.
So the film was completed 3 years ago, is that right?
Yeah, in 2010, yeah.
And when was it, what period of time was it shot over?
From like 2007 to 2010. It was a 3-year endeavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that had to do with sort of just coordinating our schedules and schedules of the many, many collaborators that we worked with, and being committed to a lot of other things, and not sure we were taking ourselves seriously or not. So
letting it unfold,
marinated over a long period of time.
Letting it unfold and sort of take its own sort of form, and then really we spent about 4 months really concentrated editing it.
Yeah.
So there's about 50 or so people involved, including performers and musicians and crew and artists who made some of the works in it.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of my questions, is that because it takes so many people to produce a film, would you consider this a curatorial effort in that you are assembling these talents for one huge project?
That's
the role of the curator. This is a peculiar.
It's one way to put it,
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I mean,
what's different than that regarding directing, for instance?
I mean, we definitely don't call ourselves directors. We've never called ourselves curators. Maybe that would apply. I don't know if we haven't used that language before. But mostly the reason we don't use directors is because it's certainly something we spent hours editing and lots of time, and it was certainly funded by us, like in terms
of touring with it,
Yeah, I mean, it's a baby that we produced in a lot of ways, but it doesn't. It would have never manifested without the creative energies of everyone else who performed in it, or the musical talents that we. So I mean, we did a lot of. Yeah, I guess we could be curators in that way. That we're picking.
Well, we call ourselves organizers instead of directors, but in the film, it says a video by A.K. Burns and A.L. Steiner, and so we didn't choose directed by or organized by or curated by, and so we.
I also think a curator doesn't maybe have the creative agency that we have. Also, I mean, as much as it depended on the collaborations, like we did put 4 months of editing into it and stuff like that. So,
Well,
which I don't.
curators do that.
Yeah, it's true. I guess in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
organizing, but it's still like editing seems to me like a very particular creative practice.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Like you are a painter if you are making paintings.
Yeah.
You are actually editing, so you can call yourself an editor, but maybe directing and curating seem a little lofty. I know earlier
Yeah,
you really
it might be that.
hesitated when I referred to you as a filmmaker, and you said, I don't refer to myself like that, but you have been working with film and video
Yeah.
for some time.
Yes, definitely.
A maker. Yeah, I mean, I think that that is a really applicable word, the idea of maker or filmmaker. And filmmaker specifically, because it has that word, it recognizes that. And filmmaking recognizes that there's all these other people that work with you on it, as opposed to visual art, where oftentimes it's maybe just your name or maybe just
There's
the
a
name
kind of autonomy to it, yeah.
Yeah, there's a sort of autonomy to it. So
Yeah.
I think these questions we've been really interested in, and there's no one answer, but we could keep expanding the language, and that's something we hope to do,
Yeah.
even with producing the zine that is available for download on our sites.
So what is the website?
Well, the zine is called Cliff's Notes for Community Action Center.
We should have one.
We can hold it up later. They can,
Richard can put the type at the bottom.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
We can give
tell
you a
what it is.
PDF of it to
Okay.
like, you can put a still in there.
Yeah,
But-
the trailer and zine are on my site. Hello, my name is Steiner, including the list of musicians and the tracks, and then AK site,
Also has the same stuff.
akburns.net.
Yeah.
So that's another exciting element of the film, is that you have all original music.
Well, yes, original
It's an
music.
original soundtrack, but
It's an original soundtrack, yeah. I mean, a lot of the tracks are actually musicians' music that's pre-recorded. Do you know what I mean? They're like,
Yeah, it existed before the film.
Right.
I would say about
and then-
half of it was pre-existing, and then we produced a bunch of other stuff, including a recitation that Justin Vivian Bond did of Jack Smith's Normal Love, and some original compositions by Nick Hallett and Sam Greenleaf Miller, and
Sergei Trechopin, and
it's Tri-State Area.
yeah, there's a few
And
original.
then pre-recorded work by Electrolane, Chicks on Speed,
Light Asylum,
Light Asylum,
and
several
Men.
Priest, Men,
I don't know. Yeah, there's
Lesbians on Ecstasy,
yeah.
and original song.
know-
Miley Cyrus's "Party in the USA," covered
Really?
by Kate Hardy.
All right.
I mean, this is like fun.
You know, Dallas was
Hey,
the
Texas.
center of ecstasy production, manufacturing in the 80s. I think it came from Dallas.
Really?
Yeah.
I had some of that in Miami. I remember in 1984.
It would have been about that time.
Yeah. It was very good.
Now, the way that you're approaching filmmaking too, it sounds like you're not going in with a completed script, and you're letting things happen. You're seeing what creative energies come to the project. And I'm wondering if you have any relationship to commercial filmmaking, because it's a very different, like when you're talking about harnessing the energy of your community and even the name of the film, it's so different than the hierarchical power structures in commercial filmmaking, where women kind of have a tough time traditionally.
Yeah. I mean, maybe this is where I hesitate with the like, am I a filmmaker? I mean, for me, there's the whole structure of the film industry, and even the festival circuit, and that whole part of what that is that I mean, we've shown in film festivals, but I don't think it's like a priority. I think certainly the queer film festivals have been a priority for us, but and there's a lot of award systems through that people are really invested in, and that's sort of not anything that we've participated in that way,
I mean, making what we call a socio-sexual video is a project that took a form outside of the structures of some of the art world structures that we come from, and also a lot of the film world structures. And it's somewhere in that liminal space of not exactly having a really clear space. And we also didn't have a budget or a time frame. It was self-funded, and we didn't have a goal with each scene. There wasn't this. I mean, there's a lot of debate about whether it's this or that, art or porn or both. Which, of course, it's both or neither for some people, or maybe one or the other. But the fact is that our structure didn't really embody a sort of goal-oriented product, and we, so for the most part, didn't know if it was going to happen or work, but we kept filming, And so that was the process that it took. We didn't storyboard, but we did want to work with particular people, and most of those people, or some of those people, ended up working with us on this, and some didn't or couldn't, or various things happened regarding timing.
Yeah,
Right.
I get
So it
that.
was left really open, like you're saying. Pretty much that was our materiality, a sort of space
Right.
of openness.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of that is that we came at the whole project with a lot of naivete, let's say. Like, neither of us really owned a film camera, video camera. We borrowed equipment, like...
This is in 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After that. Yeah.
No, for the whole 3 years.
All
Like,
3 years.
neither of us managed to, like, get a camera to own.
We had commitment issues.
So it's like, we had 4 or 5 different types of video, quality of footage that we were dealing
Yeah.
with. I mean, there was so many...
But I could see
it
guys
wasn't-
during the tech check is that you are very particular about the way things look and sound and color temperatures.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we've gotten so fussy since we finished it.
Yeah. Well, it is a seamless looking production to some degree.
We did work really hard.
We did work really hard to fuse what kind of material we had into an experience where you don't notice any type of discrepancies. I mean, it did become this sort of filmic project.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the way that it happened also allowed for this spontaneity and for this unsure sort of space of failure that we've been, as a queer community, we've been interested in too.
Yeah.
So what mediums were you working in before you embark on video and filmmaking?
Well, both of us have done video work. So video wasn't unfamiliar to either of us. I certainly hadn't.
Length was unfamiliar.
Yeah, neither of us had done a production of this scale. Neither of us had thought when we started this that we were doing a production of this scale.
It just grew.
Yeah. And then, I if I have to categorize myself, I probably put myself in the sculptural camp.
Okay.
Yeah. And but that's, I mean, I'm as likely to take a photograph as like a collage, as a video, as a...
Gotcha.
I mean, I like sculpture because I think of it as a being of and about the body as a medium. Or that's, and I relate to that then outward into different ways that I make,
I'm so
I guess.
glad you're here during that mortal
I know
coil.
this show
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
The show is
awesome
great.
to
What's
walk
happening
into.
on-
I have to say.
Yeah, we'll look at it more. I wanted to ask you to.
Oh, my medium. Oh, it's mostly video and photography.
Yeah.
And you teach, right?
And teaching, both of us.
We both
You
do.
both teach.
Yeah.
And where do you teach? Can you say?
Oh, sure, yes.
Do they know what you're
I
up
hope
to?
they want me to say. Well, I hope so. Yeah, I'm directing the MFA program at USC for this year, and so I've been at USC for a couple of years.
Yeah, and then this semester I'm starting as faculty at in the MFA program at Parsons.
Okay. And you're in New York?
And also City College, but
You're in New York and
I'm
you're
in-
in
yeah.
LA?
I'm in LA, yeah.
Yeah.
We were both living in Brooklyn when we made
Started.
this.
Yeah.
When we started it and finished it.
So what are the most satisfying scenes for each of you in the film? Like what feels the most,
In what way satisfying?
right?
oh, that is so...
Is that a loaded term?
Yeah.
Say,
Well, especially for us.
Well, yeah, because, when we talk a lot about the desire spectrum, and that sort of repulsion and attraction are sort of parts of that spectrum. And there's things that I find challenging in it that I love kind of as much as the things that are kind of more easily satisfying, But it's like so hard to pick. Where do you pick?
Well,
Like,
AK, we often
it's
talk
such
about...
a total piece for me too.
Right.
Like I have a really
Well,
hard
it's
time.
holistic, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we say. I mean, we thought a lot about the body as a sexual organ and sexual creativity rather than sex as the sort of focus of the film.
yeah.
So the idea that AK brought up in one of our first public talks about the entirety of the body, and that's sort of how the film looks at sexuality, not rather than gender and rather than genitalia,
Right.
it focuses so much more on this idea of sexual creativity as a whole, as a process. And its awkwardness too, and its humor, and its seriousness, and its hot moments, and its confusing moments.
That's what I was wondering too. I'd read some things about it's a funny film. There are some really funny bits, and how intentional that was, or if you just allowed it. So you went in thinking this is going to be.
I don't think we didn't go in thinking anything, really. No,
we went in after a couple of beers and a second.
You know, I think the thing is that a lot of the first like idea generating phase, when we were just like kind of shooting the shit and being like, wouldn't it be funny if we made this thing,
or
what would it be like if we did this? But so much of that was a lot of very comical banter between us, which is just how our friendship rolls. Like, you know, you're just, you know, how when you're sitting around with someone, you're like, oh my God, and then what if we did? And then, you know, and so
then the sausage in the hen.
and then there's going to be a witch, and then there's going to be crystals, and, you know, and so you just like have this sort of fantasy train that like goes, you know, explodes out of you. And so
you had a lot of fun doing
lightheartedness and humor was kind of in our ethos in the exchange of how we thought about it,
or even why we wanted to start this.
Yeah, and
just the fact that we didn't see a fusion of aesthetics and humor and sensibilities and things that we know that are in life, but they're just never really present, except for things like we use tropes. There's a pizza boy who appears, and so there, you know, commercial porn, for all its downsides, has a kind of hilarious relationship to itself, and so we tried to look for that too. But there's also funny. A lot of, you know, intimate humor that comes out of just our our kind of sensibility.
Yeah.
People think lesbians aren't funny. We are
hysterical, actually.
We are hysterical as people, and we, you know, so
hysterical.
Yeah, all the most well-known comedians are lesbian, right?
See?
Of course, yes.
Yeah. So
Wanda,
Jean,
right? And
there's so much.
The others you can't out right now.
No, I know. I was like,
Wanda Sykes was playing in Las Vegas when we drove into town to show it there, and we were like,
we couldn't believe
we really want to go see Wanda, but we had to.
We tried to invite her, but she couldn't make it. So.
But we'll be going to Austin tomorrow. New Orleans.
Alabama.
Oblique, Alabama. Louisville, Kentucky.
Liberty, Tennessee.
Columbus, Ohio, and Lawrenceville, PA, and then we won't mention where we could. Albuquerque, Tucson, Las Vegas, San Francisco, and Long Beach.
Yes.
That's a great tour.
Did you say Tulsa in that?
Oh, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
We just came from Tulsa.
Oklahoma,
yes.
But we're really glad you could have us here.
Oh yeah.
Hi.
Well, I'm already thinking I should have you back for a project because I love this subject matter, and it seems like you could go for 3 years on it pretty easily, or your whole life.
Well, when you watch it, you'll be like, why'd you decide to end? Because it really could take.
Well,
it could just get added onto. It's the kind of thing that just like
Community Action Center. You know, it's.
Watch the video and then let me know if you will invite us back.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced already.
Yeah, I mean that's really important. It's a question that comes up after each screening, because I think when you watch it, you'll notice a particular relationship that's a little bit different than maybe other types of film that fall into art or porn, art house porn. Mm-hmm. But we approached a number of our friends, and
some said yes, and some said no.
And then we collaborated with them, asking what they might want to do, or suggesting some things what they might want to do.
Yeah,
it was, as A.K says, soft directing. You know, it was intensely collaborative and really generative.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's because it's like people that we're talking to every other day anyways, socially. They're our friends, they're people we hang out with, and we'd be like, oh, we're kind of doing this thing, what are you doing right now, you know, and like, oh, you know, we're thinking about shooting something, like, you want to do something, like, you know, it was very casual in that way, and then it became more serious as people participated, and then after people participated, they had other feelings about it, and like, you know, that all became an extended dialogue that, you know.
And also, if we had cast it, we would have had a different relationship to the people in the film. We fundraised after the film to do this tour and also to pay everybody. So the agreements sort of came before the professionalized relationship was really had to be made more clear. So it worked in a sort of backward structure regarding how film usually
Right.
works.
Like
Do you
models releases
Yeah,
and stuff
it
where we're
worked-
like, oh
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Well, if
yep.
we start signing papers with other people, then we have to sign, and it just,
Because we're in it as well.
yeah.
You know.
We
So we
released,
use-
we
which
released
is-
ourselves.
You
We
put
really-
your money where your mouth is, and then like I'm not asking you to participate in something that I'm not.
Right. Also,
Yeah.
an equal
Doing.
player in
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's a challenge to the community, and like the way that lesbians are represented in mainstream porn is such a fiction,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
an opportunity for the community to say,
Right.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people jumped
Yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
because we all recognize that it's something we're sort of up against constantly, just even as artists. Most of the people we worked with were performance artists, and or use their bodies in different ways in their own practice, and so the awareness around what a body does, what a queer body does, what a lesbian body does in the world, trans body does, is very
mysterious.
palpable and part of the conversation and what all of us sort of believe in and think about anyways. So
Right. There's
that became
there's a mystery
a
and
platform in a way for that.
Yeah, there's a sort of gap in what queer could mean as far as representation, sexual representation. It's very theoretical, it's very academic in some ways,
Right.
and it's become very much part of a movement, a larger movement, but its actuality, its visualization is also still I feel very mysterious, and we wanted to present these things around us that we knew were there but weren't necessarily sort of archived in a particular filmic way. So this was an attempt to start, a project
Right.
about that. And
because what you're playing off of is a film about the counterculture from the 70s as well.
we did use it as a reference, but it wasn't
it's kind
so much
of
about
one.
that.
We would say that's one of like
Influence.
a broad range of. I mean, as much as contemporary pornography or performance art
Yeah.
or feminist
video.
practices and like gay liberation porn videos from like the 60s and 70s. So for us, I don't think it was time specific in that way. We
Right.
definitely have like a homage to like a 90s leather dyke, as much as like 70s like
Yeah.
Right.
nature.
But to say if those things weren't documented in film,
Yeah.
we wouldn't necessarily have a record of it.
Right.
And you've created a record
Right.
of this time.
Right.
Right.
We
It's like
we
early
definitely
21st
wrote about
century.
that in the release, trying to propose that the idea of filmic bodies of work that represent a particular place and time were really important to us because they archived, and because
Excellent.
they
Yeah.
become part of the
Yeah.
history that one could learn from or
yeah. As
sort
queers-
of utilize.
Yeah, and as queers, we're kind of very responsible for archiving ourselves, I think, because
Absolutely.
no one else will
Right.
Right.
Well, not in a way that you necessarily
want it to be done.
Yeah.
So no, nobody did this against their will. It was
Yeah.
so it was.
We didn't kidnap anyone.
But
Well, I guess we should get to your screening.
yeah.
We don't want to be late.
Thanks for having us, Central Track.
We want to thank A.L. and A.K. for speaking with us. You can find more information on A.L. at hellomynameissteiner.com. A.K. can be found at akburns.net. Look below in our show notes for a link to the trailer for Community Action Center and other links about the film. More information on Central Track can be found at CentralTrak.com. That's it for Art This Week. Thanks for watching.
I still got your Polaroid.